Hello, you're listening to Talkin Music with Joshua Kirk. On this show, I speak with musicians about albums they've made, their careers, shows they've played, and a range of other topics. My guest is a singer-songwriter from Raleigh, North Carolina, known as the frontman of the band American Aquarium, and that is BJ Barham. His band's latest album, The Fear of Standing Still, was released in July of 2024, and they are about to tour the US in the summer of 2025. In this interview, I spoke with BJ about the band's evolution, his favorite songs he's ever written, the many ups and downs of his life, and connecting with his audience. So without further ado, I hope you all enjoy my interview with BJ Barham, my guest on Talkin' Music with Joshua Kirk.
Hey,
Hey, without further ado, yeah, I think we should just get into it. So, American Aquarium has been a band for over 20 years at the time of recording. How does it feel to have been around for that long?
I don't feel that old. I feel like I'm still the kid that jumped into a van and started this thing 20 years ago. Um, when I look in the mirror, I'm reminded that I'm 20 years into this career and that I'm a little bit older and hopefully a little bit wiser for it.
That's really good to hear from someone like you who's been at it since 2005. And how I first learned about you guys was when you opened for Sons of Bill in Charlottesville, Virginia in December 2012, which was right after the release of your fifth album, the Jason Isbell produced Burn, Flicker, Die. What comes to mind when you think of this particular album?
That was a game changer for us. That was, I think every band that's been together for 20 years has that moment where they felt the tide starting to turn. They felt the proverbial light switch get flipped. And for us, it was that moment. 2012 was such a kind of a watershed moment for us. It was when we went from being looked at as like a local or regional bar band, and people started looking at us more like a national touring band. So the fact that you saw us in December 2012, you got to see kind of right when we were catching that lightning in a bottle for a second.
I definitely could clearly see that, and I know that you've said a handful of times how uh, Jason really saw something in you that uh, other people hadn't, and it was kind of fascinating the breakthrough you guys were undertaking during this time, and also like with this album, it kind of marked you kind of uh, starting to mature a little bit as a songwriter, and that kind of sort of slowly progressed with everything that followed, including another album I want to get into, which is 2020's Lamentations, which is the first album with the current lineup of American Aquarium and also uh, kind of the most politically charged album in your discography thus far. Where do you think this album ranks for you in terms of favorite albums you've made for American Aquarium?
I think it's got to be toward the top
Yeah.
by any kind of measurable analytic metric.
Yeah.
Um, it's the best selling record we've ever had. It's the most critically acclaimed record we have. It's the most streamed record we have. It's got to be up there toward the top for me. When people ask what record they should buy at the merch table, we have 17 records out. When people ask me what record they should buy, I tell them either Burn, Flicker, Die or Lamentations, or just go ahead and get both because they're kind of one Burn, Flicker, Die marked kind of like what people think of when they think of our band. But I think as far as a collective thematic piece of art, I think Lamentations is really kind of hard to beat.
I agree because it's my personal favorite album in your discography, and the fact that this album kind of manages to be uh like ambitious in parts and also like kind of uh fun and catchy and then uh very heartbreaking and like that opening track is a good example, Me and Mine, where it's like it has like this strong political message and then it's like um and then it's you guys basically just jamming out for 2.5 minutes. Uh,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I think that song. I mean, I've even heard an NPR journalist say like that opener feels more like a closer. But yet at the same time, it's kind of a cool way to kind of give people an idea of the album, and then from there, it's just like, oh yeah, I love Lamentations. And now I want to move to the album after that, uh 2022's Chickamaucomico, which does have some pretty heavy subject matter. Speaking of heartbreaking, because you talk about things like a miscarriage and the passing of your mom. Can you tell me about the importance of writing as an attempt to heal from trauma?
Yeah, I think when you're coming off the tails of something like Lamentations, there was a 2 year gap between Lamentations and when we put out Chickamaucomico. And in that 2 years, I was face to face with a lot of loss. And looking back, I think a lot of people, I've had this conversation with multiple folks. Chickamaucomico could have been my second solo record. It very much could have been just an acoustic guitar because it's very plaintive. It's very straight ahead. There's not it's storytelling, but it's very personal storytelling. It's not this fictional narrative that really kind of set the pace for Lamentations. It's really me holding up a mirror to myself and writing about the things that I was going through those 2 years. Um, I'm really glad the band wanted to play on it. I'm really glad the band wanted it to be an American Aquarium record because I think Chickamaucomico is one of those records. While a 20-year-old who listens to that might not get much from it, I think 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, that record will be lauded as one of my better records. Simply because I think you have to have enough life experience. You have to experience that kind of loss for that record to mean something to you. That record is a salve for anybody that's ever went through and truly lost something that means to them. And, when a 21-year-old college kid hears that song, they might not understand that type of loss. It might not resonate with them. They still want to hear songs about going to the bar and chasing a pretty girl and getting in a pickup truck and going down a dirt road. But when you're 40, I think those songs hit a lot harder, especially if you have experienced a miscarriage or lost a friend to a drug overdose or a suicide or lost a parent, lost a grandparent. I think that's when that record really, I think, finds its footing when the listener has experienced the thing that those songs are talking about.
Oh yeah, you're kind of reading my mind because I do remember like hearing this record. I happened to be uh 21 and a college student, and I thought it was definitely pretty good, and but like a little more recently, last summer I actually I lost both my grandmothers and my favorite uncle. So I've I've had a lot of loss recently, and it's with that a song like The First Year, which I just heard you play in Vienna, Virginia, it definitely really hit me. But yeah, like if you've been through that experience, those songs are gonna like hit you in a such an interesting way. And now I want to get into your most recent album with American Aquarium, The Fear of Standing Still, where you talk about politics in the American South, the challenges of growing old, and even something as simple as a tomato sandwich. What makes topics like these so vital to the songs on this record?
I think that when you take something simple, that everyone understands, like something as simple as a tomato sandwich, and you start wrapping memories and nostalgia into that story, it becomes something other than just a song about a sandwich. On its very base level, that's what that is. That's a song about a guy eating a sandwich and then he's thinking about his grandmother.
Yeah,
But what's crazy about that, 3-minute song is that somebody else can hear that song about my life. Very, very detailed stories of my childhood. And they can find a piece of their grandmother in that song. They can find a piece of their childhood in that song. And it's a reminder how powerful songs can be. It's a reminder how all someone has to do is pull at that little string a little bit, and it's universal. It's this thread that kind of runs through all of our stories. And once your favorite songwriters pull at that thread just a little bit, even if you haven't experienced exactly what that song's about, you find the things that you have experienced and you put it over the filter of your life. And then that song isn't about my grandmother anymore. It's about your grandmother. It's about someone else's grandmother. And I think it's just a friendly reminder of the power of song, where you can hear a song, a very, very detailed song about someone's experience, and find a huge chunk of your own experience in that same song.
I definitely feel that, and that's why Cherokee Purples I thought was my favorite song from the album, and I was happy to hear you play that recently because, like you said, that song is just about how the simple things in life matter, and a song that's about your experience can be interpreted by someone listening to it as a song about their experience and certain things that, and it's like very typical everyday things you do that just remind you of people who were important to you, meant a lot to you, and a good example with me and my grandma, who I was just talking about, is like, I mean, on our porch at home, we have a bunch of flowers, and she loved flowers, so that's like a little reminder of her. And now I want to get into more kind of the band and sort of how it's evolved because you've gone through so many changes with American Aquarium, either with the lineup of members or with the sound kind of going from raucous country rock to a more mature singer-songwriter palette. For better or for worse, what have all these changes taught you as a musician?
It's taught me how to be a better person. It's taught me how to be a better listener, a better friend, a better boss, a better band leader. Um, every single person that left taught me something. It taught me something I was doing wrong. I never fired anybody. Never fired anybody from this band. So that means that over the course of the last 20 years, I've had 31 people in this band. There's a lot of people that have walked away from this thing. And at the end of the day, you have to look yourself in the mirror after that many people leave and realize that you are probably the reason that this is happening. So, what can you do to eliminate this kind of turnover in the future? And I think that says a lot because I've had this same band now for the last 8 years. And I think I learned a lot from those first 31 people leaving the band. And I think that that's proof of that is the fact that I've had the same exact band now for all these records. I was a bad person. I was a bad friend. I was a bad boss. I was also an addict. I was actively in addiction. I was using, I was drinking, I was a I was a I was a pretty volatile person to be around because when I was sober, level headed, I was probably a normal guy to be around. But once I started drinking and once I started using, I was probably not that much fun to be around. I'm very caustic when I'm under the influence. I say things. I run off at my mouth a lot. And when you have friends and you're trying to keep friends, I've learned that getting drunk and running off at the mouth is not a good way to keep your friends around. I'd say the biggest lesson I learned was how to be a better person, how to be a better listener, how to be a better boss. It's not all about me. If it was all about me, it would be called the BJ Barham Project. It's called American Aquarium for a reason. We are a group of guys that travel around the country together and play music together. And so I've always wanted to be in a band. I've never wanted to be the BJ Barham band. I've never wanted to be that guy, even though I'm the songwriter, even though I'm the singer. I've always wanted it to be a group of guys working for a common goal. Um, and when people ask about the sound changing, the joke is the reason every record sounds different is because there's a different band playing on every record. Um, it's up until the current version of the band, every single record I made had at least one new member that was replacing another member. Every record up until that point had different people playing on those records. And so Lamentations, uh, the two Slapper and Banger records, Chickamaucomico and The Fear of Standing Still, all have the exact same band playing on them. So I think you can hear that thread running through everything since 2020. You call it a mature sound, a more singer-songwriter sound. And that's kind of what we do.
I mean, I've looked at your bio a little bit on your website, and it's basically talking about the songs on The Fear of Standing Still, and it brings up how a song like Crier is kind of a really cool mix of being kind of loud and in your face and rockin' to like kick off the album, but also having a very powerful message about how the importance of kind of dealing with your emotions effectively. And I think it is really proof of your evolution as a songwriter with because like back in the day you're talking about everything rock and roll, and then more recently you're talking about recovery, life lessons, and politics. Can you tell me what you have learned as a songwriter as you've kind of changed in that way?
Yeah, I think when you're a kid, and by kid, I mean, I started touring when I was in my, early 20s. I was 20, 21 years old when I was touring. I think that version of me just wanted to be loud. I didn't have a lot to say, so I wanted the if you. I've learned that a lot of bands, if they haven't found their voice yet, if they don't know exactly what they want to say, being loud is a really great uh, thing to be. Because if you're loud, you can hide behind the loudness.
Yes.
Sometimes it doesn't mean matter what you say. If the band's loud and rocking enough, people are still going to dance to it anyway. People are still going to move around to it, even if it doesn't have a lot of thought behind it. The older I got and the more important I felt the words that I was writing were, um, we stripped back some of that power that a lot of bands hide behind, just to make sure that people realize, like, yes, we are a rock band, but we're also fronted by a songwriter. Um, what I'm saying, even if it's a fast, loud rock and roll song, what I'm saying is still very thought out. What I'm not just putting words down because they rhyme. I'm not just putting words down because it's a group of words that sound good together. I'm not that abstract. I still tell stories. I still teach things, or at least try to in my songs. And the older I get, the more confidence I gained as a songwriter, the more I was willing to strip some of that kind of armor off of me, that facade, that really loud rock and roll. Like, you know, everything I used to sing about was what I thought I was supposed to write about, going to the bar, chasing girls, road dogging, living life hard. And as I started getting older, I realized that as long as I continued, and that's okay when you're in your 20s. I want to preface that. It's okay to write about that stuff when you're in your 20s because that's what you're going through. That's what you know. That is life. But as I got older, I didn't want to be the 40-year-old who's still singing about going and getting drunk at the bar and one night stands and, living in a van. I wanted my songwriting to grow with me as a person. So I started writing about the other stuff around me. I realized that, like, every person only has two or three records that they can write about themselves and it still be interesting. Nobody is that interesting to where you need eight records about themselves. So I took the mirror and probably around Burn Flicker Die, if I'm being honest. Small Town Hymns, Burn Flicker Die. I took that mirror and I turned it outward and I started writing about all the stuff that I see, not just about the stuff that I see internally. And I started writing a lot more social observations. And I think that's where my songwriting took a massive jump. Was when I stopped just focusing on the stories that I wanted to tell and started telling a lot of stories that needed to be told.
I want to dive a little deeper because, according to Wikipedia, your band name is derived from the opening lyric in the Wilco song, I Am Trying to Break Your Heart. Is this true? And if so, what inspired you to name your band after one of Wilco's most iconic songs?
That record changed how I looked at music. I was a senior in high school when that record came out. I remember the first time I heard that record, it blew my mind because it was very. I knew of Uncle Tupelo and I knew the country punk influence that they had all throughout the early 90s. But afterwards, I became a little bit more of a Sunvolt fan than I was a Wilco fan. I think Trace is a better debut record than AM. I might get some blowback from that, but I think that might be a universally accepted thing. Um, but when I heard this record, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, in 2001, um, it blew my mind. It took the storytelling of country music and it was like hearing your it taught me that there weren't any parameters you had to stick in to be a country band, to be a folk band, to be a songwriter. You could add these like noise freakouts and these electronic flourishes and it still remain rooted in American music, traditional American music. Because if you listen to records like Being There, you hear the influence of traditional American music on Wilco. But then around Summer Teeth, I think that would have been 97, 98. I think I might be off on the days or the years, but that was when they started really experimenting with a lot more noise in the band. That was my first experience with a lot of kind of like sonic freakouts. But then fast forward to Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, and they are full blown what we consider Wilco today. The Radiohead of the Midwest, dad rocking. Uh, and I remember that record just changed me. I don't think we sound a lot like Wilco. I don't think we try to sound a lot like Wilco. But the reason that record was so important to me is it taught me that there were no rules to this game, that you could make whatever kind of music you wanted to. And as long as you remained honest to yourself, you would find an audience for it. Wilco, when that record came out, there was no audience for that. Like, is it indie rock? Is it country? Is it Americana? What is this? And that's kind of what we've always strived to be. That's the big similarity, I think, between us and Wilco is the chameleon aspect. Is we can go into a rock and roll festival and fit in. We can go into a folk festival and fit in. We can play a country music festival and fit in. Our music kind of isn't one thing, but is a lot of things at the same time. And that's why Wilco was such a huge influence on me earlier on, not necessarily sonically or songwriting wise. I think Jeff Tweedy is far more of an abstract writer. And from what I can get from the books that I've read that he's written about songwriting, we have very, very different approaches to how we write songs. Um, but that doesn't mean they're any less influential on me in the bigger scheme of just music in general. And so in 2005, I think it might have been 2004, whenever we booked our very first show, it might be '04. The classic, the venue owners like, what name do we put on the marquee? And we all got together, and a buddy of mine from high school was actually the one who's like, you should call it American Aquarium. And we didn't have any better names to beat it, so we went with um, American Aquarium. And I learned a lesson that once you name your band and you put out your very first record with your band name on it, you don't really get to change it. You can't go back and just change your band name. You have to dissolve the band and then start a new band. And I wasn't willing to do that. So here we are 20 plus years later, and I have the same band name that I started with, American Aquarium.
And in some ways, I think it kind of fit what kind of songs you were writing with the band at the time, which is about drinking and stuff like that. I can tell from you talking so much about Wilco that you are a passionate fan of music, and I've seen best of the year posts from you on Instagram and also heard you talk about music on other podcasts. What music do you like to listen to when you're not writing or playing your own music?
I'm lucky because a lot of the music I listen to now is my friends. A lot of I love songwriters. I love the craft, the art of songwriting. So I tend to gravitate toward anyone that has something to say. I don't really care if it's a genre. I don't fall into genres that much, but as long as there is someone fronting a band, it could be a punk band, it could be a rock band, it could be a folk singer, it can be a country band. If you have something to say and you say it in a way that is unique and thoughtful and in a way that I haven't really heard before, I tend to freak out about that kind of stuff. I tend to get really excited about that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And so that's usually my one rule is the song. Like everybody in my band, they're not, I'm a lyric first. So there's two kinds of people in this world. There's lyric first people and there's music first people. When you first hear a song, some people go directly to the music. Does it have a good groove? Can I dance to it? How does the music make me feel? Does it make me want to stand up? Does it make me want to move around? And then there's other people who, like me, I find myself in this category, which is what are they saying? I don't care what the music sounds like at first. Do you have something interesting to say? And I find myself there's a lot of really great bands with really shitty songwriters. And there's a lot of really incredible songwriters with horrible bands behind them. And
yeah.
I can't listen to a really good band with a bad songwriter, but I can listen to a really good songwriter with a bad band behind them. Um, so I find myself always being gravitated toward lyrics. So if I'm posting stuff to like, hey, this song moved me, or these are my records of the year, very rarely is it this music made me feel something. It more tends to be these lyrics made me feel something. And so I'm lucky because I've been doing this for long enough to where most of my heroes are my friends these days. And a lot of your up and coming songwriters list American Aquarium as one of their influences. And so I get to, they're my friends as well. You know, the bands that we've taken on tour, bands that, we found in the early stages of their career, and then fast forward 10 years, and they're headliners now. They're massive artists, um, but they still have something to say. And so a very elaborate answer for a very simple question, but the stuff I tend to listen to is my friends' bands. Most of the vinyl records I have are, I pre-order all of my friends' music. Whenever my friends are putting out new records, I try my best to be the first one in line to pre-order it so I can have the colored variant that I want. And I'm lucky that a lot of the music I listen to as soon as I get done listening to their music, I can send them a text message and say, "Hey, great job with this new record. It really spoke to me, or this song really spoke to me." Um, I'm very, very lucky to be able to do that.
There's music first people and lyric first people, and I definitely am one of those people who tends to care about both things, the music and the lyrics. And I think, and like you, I don't really care if the music is like stripped down acoustic or like filled with all these bells and whistles. Like, as long as they have something to say that's like from their heart and 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 for me, it doesn't really matter like how they say it, just as long as it's authentic and they really uh mean what they say. And the most recent time that I saw you was in Vienna, Virginia on March 28th, and I was really impressed how you stayed after the show to meet and greet your fans. Uh, can you tell me how connecting with your fans has played an important role in you and your band's career?
It's invaluable. It's what our entire career is based off of. You don't have a career without fans. I don't care how good you are. You don't have a career if there's not somebody willing to listen to your music or willing to come out and support you live or buy a t-shirt or buy a vinyl record. Um, we realized that very early on. We are not a band that gets played on the radio. We are not a band that is ever going to go viral on TikTok. We are a band that shows up to your city once a year and puts on a 2 hour rock and roll show and make sure you leave one, being reminded why you like our band, two, being reminded that we appreciate you being there. And there's no better way to show someone that you appreciate them being there than to be standing at the door, shaking their hand when they walk out, telling them, thank you for being here. We couldn't do this without you guys. Thank you for coming. I started doing this at the very, very first American Aquarium show, and I've done it every show since. I did it at Red Rocks. At Red Rocks, I stood outside for 3 hours at Red Rocks and just shook people's hand and told them how thankful I was they were there. And thank you for listening to my music. Thank you for getting here early to see me. We used to do it out of necessity. We used to do it because we needed to sell, 10 CDs to have enough gas money to get to the next town. And so we'd go to the merch table and we'd try to make sure everybody knew, like, hey, we got CDs for sale. Come say hey to us. Thank you for being here. And then it got to a point where um, a lot of people expected me to be there. And so I kept walking out to the merch table every night. And at first, like I said, it was only 5 or 10 people, and then it was 20 people, and then it was half the place. And it's funny now because if you come to see us play, we might play 1,000 person theater, and there might be 300 people in line to talk to me after the show. And I stand there. If it's 30 minutes or if it's an hour and a half, I stand there until the last person's gone. I don't ever rush anybody. If they have a story to tell me, I listen to their story. I take pictures. I sign stuff. Whatever they need me to do, because without them being there, I don't get to do this. I don't get to travel around the country in a tour bus with my best friends playing music for a living. Without fans, I don't get to do any of that. And there's this part of my brain that thinks if I stop doing that, then it all goes away. And so every night when I get done playing, it's, am I going out? People always ask, are you going out and signing stuff? I'm like, of course I am. I was like, my legs work. Like, why wouldn't I go out there and sign stuff? And I wish more bands did that. I wish more bands were there for the fans. I wish more bands showed up. You know, the question I always ask myself is, what would I want my favorite band to do for me? And I think the ultimate answer is just I would love to have the opportunity after a show to walk up to the person that I came to see and not be weird, not be intrusive, but just say, hey, your music got me through something really tough. Thank you. And shake their hand and maybe take a picture and walk away. That's all most of us want to do. Most of us just want to tell the people, because like when you listen to music in your house by yourself, like that's an intimate experience. This person is pouring their heart out, and you're sitting in your room, usually by yourself with your headphones on, and you're experiencing it, and you feel seen by this one person, and they're getting you through something tough. Like, why wouldn't you want to just tell them thank you? And why wouldn't they want to hear how their music is affecting other people? I've never understood why other bands don't do it, but I'm glad they don't because it really makes us stand out a lot more because it's something we will always do.
I was definitely really honored to still be remembered and known by someone like you.
For sure.
Yeah, almost 13 years after we first met, and like me and my parents were like the last people in line at Jam and Java when you played, and I definitely knew that when I had started this whole thing with my podcast, that the next time I saw you, either with the band or solo, that I had to see you after the show, and however long it would take me to wait in line, I would totally do it because I would give you my business card and tell you about my podcast, and now here we are.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad that you asked me. I'm honored to be asked to be on this thing. So thank you. I was just as tickled the first time you reviewed a record, back in 2012,
Yeah.
and I'm thankful that after all these years, you're still listening to us and you're still wanting to talk to me.
What are you working on right now? Are you writing for the next album, touring,
Yeah,
working with
we go.
anybody?
We go back in the studio in the fall. We're doing another record with Shooter Jennings out in Los Angeles. And so I'm finishing up writing this record, and I'm going to be touring all summer with the band. And then in the fall, we go back in the studio and make another record. And sometime around this time in 2026, I'll give you a new record to review on the podcast.
Oh yeah. I'm very excited to hear that you're still just keeping the heat going. Would you mind letting our listeners know where we can find you on social media?
Yeah, we're on all the major stuff. So, AmericanAquarium.com is the official website. You can go there for tour dates, merch, bio, pictures, videos, all that good stuff. And then socials. Instagram is American Aquarium. Facebook is American Aquarium. Twitter or X is US Aquarium. And then on TikTok, it's American Aquarium and Blue Skies American Aquarium and Threads is American Aquarium as well. So whichever social media you like to spend your time on and doom scroll, you can find us on just about everything.
BJ, it's been awesome having you on Talking Music to talk about music and some other things that came up in the conversation.
Yeah, Joshua, thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate you asking me to be on here, and it was an amazing 46 minutes of conversation.
Oh yeah, I agree. Thank you very much.
Heck yeah.
I'll see you.
We'll see you, man. Thanks.
If you want to learn more about American Aquarium and check out their records, just check out the link to their website below in the description. Also be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a nice comment. If you have any suggestions for how I can make future improvements for the show, I'd be glad to hear them. You can also find me on my website, jkmusicreviews.com, along with my Instagram link down below. Talkin' Music is edited by Louisa Phillips. Thank you to BJ Barham for participating, and to you for listening. Have a good day, everyone.